Hello, and welcome back to Amateur Philosophers Play Games. I'm Noah, the host.
I'm Justin, the guy who's playing the games.
And this is the show where we play video games and discuss philosophical topics, ideas, problems, and philosophize about random topics. As a disclaimer, as always, neither of us are professionals, although if you listen to the previous episode, maybe you might disagree. Neither of us are professionals, we're just two dudes on the internet who like talking about this sort of stuff. Today we'll be continuing Justin's playthrough of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Justin, you just unlocked the bomb room.
Yeah, bombs.
Bombs.
Grenades.
But that's not what today's topic is about. Today's topic is about, you wanted to talk about rooms, specifically a room belonging to someone named Mary. You want to explain what this is?
So, there's a common, there's an old philosophy thought experiment called Mary's Room. And it portrays a young scientist who has spent her entire life in this room. And she can only see in black and white because everything in the room is black and white, including like her skin, her hair. She's never seen any color before, only black and white.
Okay.
She is also a neuroscientist, so she understands everything about how the brain works. She understands how the eyes perceive colors and how they perceive shapes and how every chemical reaction that goes on in your brain when you're seeing something. And then one day, Mary's sitting at her computer and there's a problem, a short, and her screen flashes red. And the question is, okay, well, has Mary gained any new knowledge? Does she know anything now that she didn't know before? And many people say that no, because she understood all the physical properties of light and of color and everything, she hasn't gained any new knowledge because she already knew what red was prior to the error on the screen.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting that is an interesting question. If you want to delete B, back up, you just hover over it, zoom out, and then I think if you... Yeah. You can delete it, yeah. So this is an interesting question. Kind of getting into a question of what is knowledge and how do you... What does it mean to know something, right? Which is a field of philosophy called epistemology, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, epistemology is all about knowing, all about understanding what knowledge is and how we know things.
Okay.
If we know things.
Ooh, that sounds like a spicy question.
If we know them, how do we know that we know them?
Yeah, I suppose we could even ask the question, is it even possible to know anything? But let's talk about Mary first before we start questioning everything that we could ever know. So I would say my first impression to this answer, has Mary learned anything? I think we have to make a distinction between, let's see how to put it, distinction between intellectual knowledge and experiential knowledge. So intellectually, no, she has not learned anything. Experientially, yes, she has.
I didn't die, though.
You didn't die. Good work. Not dying is a real step up from how we were doing earlier on last episode, if you said that.
Oh, yeah, I want to know what these are. Continue.
Yes. So intellectual knowledge would be exactly what it sounds. Intellectual, sort of head knowledge. You've studied it in a textbook or in theory. Whereas experiential knowledge would be you've felt it. So I would say I have intellectual knowledge of Australia. I've studied it. I know it exists. I know roughly the geography, the climate, things like that. I don't have experiential knowledge of Australia. I've never been there before. So, yeah, so to answer this question, Mary already had the intellectual knowledge of the color red because she knew that colors existed. She knew how the brain functioned, but she hadn't actually experienced it until the error flashed on her computer.
Right.
How does that work? How'd I do, boss?
I mean, that's a good way of looking at it, I think. I think it does bring up a that people fail to make a lot of time.
Hold L if you want to walk to it.
So there are two different kinds of knowledge, which makes sense. But I think you're, in a way, you're answering the question, but you're also dodging the question at the same time.
I do love dodging questions.
So, yeah, I know, you would be a very good politician.
Oh, thank you. Wait.
So I think it does dodge the question a little bit in the sense that what you're doing is saying, okay, well, she knows, like, she's gained some knowledge, but not really explaining what does that mean? Like, what does her knowledge gain mean? So when you say that she intellectually knows what colors and everything, does that mean when she looks at the screen, she knows, oh, this is the color red? Or does she now know what red looks like?
Yeah. So you're saying when she looks at the color screen as the error flashes up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're assuming Mary is a neurologist. She's pretty smart person. She could...
In a thought experiment, we could even say she is the best neuroscientist ever.
Great.
So,
awesome. So yeah, Mary's very...
Fun things about thought experiments. There are no rules.
There are no rules except what we make. That's fun. Mary's... Oh, you're gonna... Oh, it's a pig. That's a little sad. But hey, you get raw meat. So, Mary is a pretty smart Mary's probably a pretty smart person. She might not immediately make the connection between this strange new sensation that's assaulting her eyes and the intellectual understanding of the color red, but she probably will make the connection eventually.
Probably, maybe, might, kind of, sort of, might.
Okay, we're saying thought experiments have no rules. Let's say the rule. Yeah, she makes the connection. Oh, I understand now. I've seen the descriptions of the color red that... You know what? I'm going to have to go for a slightly odd assumption. She is even aware of what neurons are firing at any given point to make my point. So she's aware, when I've studied when a person experiences the color red, that person sees... that person sees these neurons activate inside her head, right?
Okay.
And now she's the best neurologist around, so much that she can even be aware, oh, wait, those neurons are activating in my head right now. Therefore, I must be experiencing the color red.
I see. So, I don't know what this is gonna do, but I'm gonna make it. Isn't the thing he can have bad food where, like, if it turns into garbage?
But I think that only usually happens if you put, like, monster eyeballs in there. So.
Okay, so let's not put the monster eyeballs in there, but let's cook all that stuff. Okay, so I'm sorry. You were saying that she knows that neurons are firing. You could say like, this must be the color red because I know that these neurons are firing in my head right now.
Right.
So therefore, I know this is what red looks like.
Right.
But okay, so then prior to her having seen it though, would she like know? Oh, this is what it would be like to see red. Or would she have to be like, oh, I don't know what it's like to experience seeing red.
Well, okay.
See, look at that.
So let's see. She knows that red exists. We're assuming.
Yes.
I'm going to say no. She does not understand the experience of what red is like. So let me try to pull out an example that's a little less boring. That's a lot of healing. Oh my goodness, that's like
I cannot use that. I have to wait. I have to wait so long.
You might want to only like cook one thing at a time.
Yeah, I think I'm getting too big for my britches right here.
So yeah, what would be a good example? Okay, here we go. This is a strange example. I don't know where I got it. You know, maybe you've heard in, I believe it's the Dead Sea. The sea is so salty that humans float without any effort, right?
Right.
So I've never experienced that. I have never experienced any form of water like that. But I can sort of comprehend, okay, so it would be just like swimming in water, but the water, I don't sink down into the water. So I can sort of make a connection, but I won't know what it really feels like until I actually go swimming in the Dead Sea.
Right, so you have gained the knowledge of what it feels like. And while that is, like you were saying, like experimental, how did you say it?
Experiential.
Experiential knowledge. The question in general is, okay, if it's not experiential, then what do you really know then? Like, in an academic, what does that mean? Like, okay, you can say, oh yeah, I know what it's like to... Boulder? Who's this guy? I'm sorry, this girl. Should I actually return it to this person, or should I just keep...
Yay! You made a rock drop. So this is a good question. You have some form of knowledge that you dropping a rock off a cliff is Link, but have you ever done that? So yeah, I guess we have to define what does it mean to know something.
What does it mean to know something? Like,
I was hoping you could answer that question.
Well, knowledge is often thought in philosophy as being a truly held belief. That's what knowledge is a truly held belief. So it's a belief that is true, and you have a belief and it is true.
Interesting. Okay. So... Alright, sure. So let's try to apply that to Mary. Well, if we're going to go off my assumption that there's two different kinds of knowledge, or at least two different kinds of knowledge, intellectual knowledge would be a belief that is true but has not been verified by you, and experiential knowledge would be a belief you hold that is true that has been verified by experience.
Okay, so I know we said that we were probably going to talk about something else before we talk about this, but now, with that transition, I think we have to talk about Gettier cases.
Ooh, boy. I don't really know what Gettier cases are, but you've talked about it before. I'm always with the sound of dread, so I am looking forward to it.
Yes, so a Gettier case. Okay, let's say you are walking by a field.
Okay.
And you see an animal off in the distance, and you say, oh, look, there's a sheep in the field. And you look at it, and then, unbeknownst to you, that is not a sheep, it's actually just a shaggy dog. And then, but also unbeknownst to you, just on the other side of a hill in the same field, there is a sheep. Do you know that there's a sheep in the field? It seems...
Let's unpack this. Okay, so, going off our philosophical definition of if knowledge is belief correctly held, level 1 would say... Okay, level 0 would say, there's a sheep in a hill. You say there's a sheep in a hill, you're right. That's level 0. Level 1 says, no, your belief has to be correct for it to be truly knowledge. So because you believe that this thing over here is a sheep, but it's not, no, you don't have knowledge. But level 2 says, but hold on, you don't have to know a certain... You don't have to know exactly what you know. You just have to think you know what am I saying?
I don't know, but I disagree with your second one. The level 1 doesn't make sense either, because this claim isn't that is a sheep in the field.
The claim is there is a sheep in the field. So I guess the question boils down to, can you be right for the wrong reasons?
Yes, that's exactly what it's supposed
Okay.
Can you be right Can you be right without knowing that you're right?
In that case...
Are you just lucky and you just happen to be right?
Probably. I mean...
So is knowledge just contextual on...
Okay, here we go. Sure. Okay, this is actually an interesting question of... I hate to bring up Schrodinger's cat, but it kind of is. So, an interesting question of knowledge. So let's say I flip a coin. You flip a coin, Justin.
Right.
Without me looking at it. But without me looking at it, I say it's heads. Okay?
Right.
Now, if it's heads... Now, if I do look at it, and it is heads. Okay?
Right.
So, I was right. Right? Okay. But
I don't know if you are right.
Okay, hold on.
But...
I'm not going to say I had knowledge of it, but I'm going to say factually I was correct that the coin landed on heads.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
it
is possible to it is possible to be correct by mistake. I think we can agree on this, right?
Yes. Keep running through stuff.
Yeah, it is possible to be correct by mistake. So, does that imply that you know something that is incorrect?
See, I don't think so. I don't think just because you have knowledge that you're right, that you are.
And for that, I would say you're probably right. Yeah. I'm gonna say it's possible to be correct by luck, but it's not possible to have knowledge by luck.
I agree. I don't think you can be right, or you can have a chance. I think it has to be actual knowledge in the sense that you know it, and you know that you know it. Like, it's... And so then when it comes down to it, we really don't know as much as we would like to think that we know. Because, for instance, Descartes, René Descartes, a very famous philosopher. You might know him if you remember anything from math class.
Yeah, if your math teacher tortured you with Cartesian coordinates, this is the guy you have to blame.
Yeah, he set out trying to understand exactly what it is that we know, what we don't know, and found that we really don't know a lot about things that have to do with our experiences because our senses have been wrong in the past, right? And so who knows? Am I really playing this game, or am I just dreaming that I'm playing this game?
Well, if you want to open this debate, then this goes down. This goes much farther down than you might initially think. Sure, it's possible you're dreaming playing this game, but it's also possible you're dreaming that I exist. It's also possible that games never existed in the first place. Yeah. It's also possible that you're just a brain in the Matrix, and you're the last living person left alive, and everything you see is just a cleverly crafted illusion to deceive you for some nefarious reason. And yeah, when you start getting to that point, I think this is what we call insanity, where, you know, if you start to doubt everything that exists, what is there to base anything on? Everything, you have to make assumptions to know anything.
Do you?
Yes, you have to make the assumption that it is possible to know something. Okay, let me back this up. If I want to say the universe is knowable, at least in some way, which all science, all experience, all philosophy, everything, the universe has to be comprehensible in some way, right?
I suppose.
Well, that's an assumption.
No, I think is it an assumption? Assumption is something that you give without any reason. That's what an assumption is. I assume it's true despite any evidence.
I mean, what evidence could I give that the universe is truly comprehensible?
Let's see what.
Anything you would do would be relying on the fact that you can comprehend some part of the universe.
So I guess that goes into asking, well, what do you mean by comprehension?
You can understand something as it truly is in some way, even a little bit.
Okay, so this goes slightly into going back to Descartes. How did Descartes go about understanding the universe around him? What was the start of how he began his thoughts experiment? So originally he said, you know what, my senses have all deceived me, and everything I've learned could be just, you know, a mistake. I could have misheard it, I could have seen it, and so I can't trust any knowledge I have based off those things. But instead of like giving up and just saying, okay, fine, I can't know anything, he said, let's go back and let's remove all my senses completely. Well, do I know anything now? And it seems that he does. It seems like eventually he gains knowledge of something. He gains, called cogito.
Right, I remember reading this. For anyone who wants to check out Descartes, which I don't know why you would, but I suppose if this interests you, sure. But if you want to check out this, what was this? Descartes, it's one of his more famous works.
Meditations.
Yeah, Descartes' Meditations.
Oh my god, okay, I'm on fire. Run away.
Yeah, you want to pause the game real quick so that in case weird. It's not I don't know if it'll show up in production, but the game was kind of freezing out for a minute, so and also, you know, you're about to die. So.
Yeah, I am about to die. I should probably eat something.
Yeah.
You were saying in the Meditations is where you find the cogito and his thought experiments that go about understanding what knowledge is.
Right. So,
did you want me to explain?
Oh yeah. So I was just saying for any, because I don't think we have time or the skill to explain that explain that entire thing from scratch at the moment. I think it's a little above our pay grade at the moment. We're saying any interested viewers what to go read if you're interested.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if you wanted to read about what it is, you would go to, I think, his second or third meditation where he goes. Yeah. Where he gains knowledge of basically saying that he knows.
I think the fire might be lit. You want to like fast travel out of here?
Let's eat out. That's something else we could talk about eventually at some point. So time travel might not be possible. What about space travel like this? Instantaneous transportation.
Ooh, that's a fun one. Yeah. Where were we? So, oh yes, doubting everything that exists.
So eventually he learns cogito, and he basically says, okay, I can know that I exist. I know I'm real. And even if I'm being deceived by something, or if I'm asleep, the person who is asleep must exist. And I'm the person. So he knows that he exists, so that's not an assumption. It's based off the fact of having an experience. In order to have an experience,
right,
you have to exist.
Okay, sure. So that's an assumption you can make, but for example, the assumption that anything else is the assumption that anything exists, there is something in the universe other than yourself, is, well, I honestly, I don't think you can prove that.
I think that, I think you're right. I think Descartes disagrees, though. Descartes does eventually go on to conclude that he knows lots of things. Well, not necessarily a lot. Knows a lot more than he originally came with, which was that he knew nothing. He eventually believes that you can prove that there is a God, and that God is good, and many other things about God.
Yeah.
And you have hands. I think like the physical world exists. So eventually he does go around to say like, oh yeah, I can prove the physical world exists. I don't know if he quite does that. I think he could have done it. I just think he did it poorly.
Sure. We'll take that. But yeah, so let's make the assumption that the physical world exists, because if we don't, we're going to be here all day.
Yeah,
and,
that'll take a while.
So yes, the physical world exists. Mary exists, and Mary's in a room.
Right. So Mary's in her room. So this is going back to you knowing about. So Mary's in her room. When she sees the color red for the first time, does she gain any new knowledge? And we're saying that, okay, assuming that the physical world exists, she can understand that, like, when neurons are firing, she can understand the wavelength of, like, the color of the light, and know that, oh yeah, it falls within this range, therefore it's red. But I've always said that the knowledge she gained was the knowledge of, like, how to identify red. Because prior to this, Mary could have, like, it could have been blue that appeared on the screen, or if she had to, like, select the color red. Could she really have done it prior to seeing it, or being able to call back and, like, think back on, like, these things, like, oh yeah, this is what red is? Or, I guess going off what you were saying, would she just be able to know what neurons are firing at every color she sees?
Yeah, I'm saying... Well, for my thing to work, that she knows she's seen red, we have to assume she can identify... We have to make the assumption that she can identify red when she sees it. But is that an assumption we can make? I think that's a good question to ask.
Right, and because that is because I guess more of like going into what the question is like, what does it take for her to know what red is? At what point does she know what red is versus just guessing or having textbook knowledge?
We're gonna have to come up with some definitions. Okay. Yeah, going back to what I was saying about, oh gosh, we never talked about what was the problem about the sheep. We just kind of sidetracked that, didn't we?
Yeah, you did a little dance there.
We've dug ourselves into so many holes, and I don't know how we're gonna dig ourselves out, and I don't even know if if the holes even exist in the first place.
That's true. So okay.
So
what
let's
do you want to tackle first?
Let's do this systematically. I think for now I'm happy with my explanation of there's two different kinds, at least two kinds of knowledge. There's intellectual knowledge and experiential knowledge. Mary before had intellectual knowledge of the color red. Now she has both intellectual and experiential. Maybe there's more to say here, but I think I'm okay with this for now. Is that all right?
I think so.
Okay, so let's move on to sheep in a field. Right, there's a field. There's a sheep. You are correct that there's a sheep in it, but you are incorrect about what kind of sheep is.
Right, but your question isn't about like where the sheep is or anything like that. Your question or your statement is just there is a sheep in the field, but do you know that there is a sheep in the field?
Right. So we've agreed you're correct by accident. Yes. But did you have the knowledge that there's a sheep in the field? And I think this is how we came to the topic, what does it mean to know something?
Right.
Okay, we're just retracing our steps, just like in the game.
Yeah. See, I mean, you do this a lot in philosophy. A lot of philosophy is like going back and trying to make sure and iron out all the details to make sure that you know where you are, like how you got to where you are. So this is completely normal.
Okay, well that's good. That's good for. See, this is the genius part about making this a philosophy show, because we can just talk about the same things and extend the ad revenue out. Oh yeah. This is great.
But is it ethical?
Let's talk about that at a future time. But yes.
So I think yes.
Well, what is knowledge?
So what is knowledge? So we said that it was probably...
We said there's at least two kinds of knowledge, but that doesn't really explain what those are.
Right, so we've said that knowledge usually, in the idea, is a truly held belief. Right. And
I was making the distinction, intellectual knowledge is a truly held belief that one has not experienced.
I thought there was going to be a ground there. There's no ground there.
Well, I mean, there's a ground eventually.
Hey. Okay, let's not jump off again, but let's see if I can go down.
Yeah. A truly held belief. My intellectual knowledge is a truly held belief that is that has not been
no.
physically experienced in the world, whereas experiential knowledge is a truly held belief that... A truly held belief... I'm going to say because one has experienced a sensation, a phenomenon or sensation in the physical world.
Okay.
So I'm going to... I say, for the example, I have a phone. I own a smartphone. And how did I come to this experience? Well, because I had an experience. I can feel it. I can see it. I can touch it. I can power it on. These are all things that happen in the physical world that I experienced that give me the belief I have the smartphone, and presumably it is true. So I have the knowledge. I own a smartphone.
All right, I'm gonna get a little controversial then. Did Columbus know he was in India?
He thought he was in India.
He thought he was in India.
But he was he didn't, because he was mistaken.
Okay, but he had the experience of being what he...
Right, that's why I was saying the experience has to be of... Also, for this to work, it has to be experience of a thing that is true.
Oh, what? No, I got really bad at judging like where the drop off is. Like,
It's okay.
Link needs some glasses, yo.
Well, maybe you can find some in this... in Hyrule. Yeah, so, yes, the reason I was saying I have knowledge that I own a phone is because I'm going to make the assumption that it is true that I own a phone, and I have experience. How do I know that it's true? Don't ask that question, because I'm assuming it for now, and otherwise we're just going to get into some circular reasoning, and I don't think we want to go there. But making the assumption it is true that I own a phone. And I have the knowledge that I own a phone. I have that knowledge for two reasons. One, because it is true, and two, because I've experienced it.
Right, but you're just assuming it's true.
Okay, so what do you want to assume is true? We have to assume something is true for this to go anywhere.
So what can you assume is true? Can I just not go over there at all? But like, there's stuff over there. I want to go to this stuff.
Well, you gotta... I know we were talking, I think this was in our Ship Theseus episode, but you have to get all 4 spirit orbs for the old man to give you his hang glider. And then you can jump down and paraglide to the bottom of the cliff and not die.
I'm looking for the last thing.
I don't know. Maybe get on like a high place and look around, or you could scan the map.
Have I not done one over here yet? Is this? I feel like over here where they.
Yeah.
Should I go back to the fire? Because I feel like there was something over there in the fire that I was supposed to do.
Maybe. So like you could go maybe in the pond or something. You could just walk in that direction, see where
the wind takes me.
Yeah. Honestly, that's the fun thing about Breath of the Wild. It's just picking a direction and walking and seeing what you come across.
And then running in circles.
Yeah, that too. So, yeah, what can we assume? For our assumption of a true knowledge is a truly held belief, we're already making the assumption there are things that are true, right?
Right.
So, how do we know what is true? That's a good question, but for now, let's just make the assumption that some things are true, and we don't have to prove it at the moment. Is that fair?
Okay, so then you're saying that you can know what's true, but you don't have to prove that you know it's true?
I'm saying, for the sake of our argument, we're going to assume that there are things that are true, and we're not going to prove them for now. Maybe we can go back and prove them later, but for now, I don't think we have the capacity to do it. Because we have... Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
I think I get what you're saying. Okay, so we're...
So, pick something you want to assume is true.
I have hands. I've always wanted to assume that that's true.
Alright, sure. You have hands. How did you come to this? Oh, okay, so we're assuming in the cosmic sense, despite our perceptions, despite any mistaken, Justin has hands. Okay.
Right.
So setting that aside, how did you come to the belief that you have hands?
My senses tell me I can see them and I can feel things with them. So
Okay. That's good. That's good with me. So we say you experienced it. You experienced it. You had a phenomenon, a sensation in the physical world.
Right.
And you believe, because of your experiences, you believe it.
Right.
And going back to our assumption, it is true.
Yes.
Therefore, you have based on my definition, you have knowledge that you have hands.
Right. And so you're saying,
if all three of those boxes are checked, then you have that experiential knowledge.
All right. So then, in the case of the sheep in the field, I don't know that there's a sheep in the field because I don't have an experience to justify it.
Yes. I think the thing about the sheep in the field, it's worded in such a way to make you think you've experienced it, but you haven't.
That is the whole point of getting your cases.
Yeah.
The whole point is there are things where it's set up so that you would say that you have knowledge, but then for some reason you conclude I don't have knowledge.
Right. So, yeah. So let's go back over our 3 check marks. So, first of all, it is, in the cosmic universe sense, it is true that there's a sheep in the field, right?
Yes.
Okay. Second of all, you believe there is a sheep in the field.
Right.
But I think the problem, the breakdown is in your 3rd category, which is your experience of seeing that shaggy dog makes you think. So I guess maybe we need to break down this category into, like, a subcategory?
I got a lizard.
That lizard didn't stand a chance.
Nope.
Good old Link, Slayer of Ganon and lizards.
So, yes, so so going back to Mary then, okay, we've given this. I argue that by your definition, she doesn't know it's red because she has no experience.
And before the error message.
So prior to the... She does not know what red is.
She did, remember, this was, I'm saying, for my experiential knowledge, which...
Okay. I see, okay.
Yeah, so prior to her, that she did not have experiential knowledge of red. Red exists in the cosmic sense.
Right. She knows red exists.
She knows red exists, but she hasn't...
Wow, does she know that red exists?
Yeah, remember where I'm talking about, remember that this is where I go back to experiential versus... I guess this is a good time to define what do I mean by intellectual knowledge.
Yeah, let's do that.
Right. So, intellectual knowledge would be, again, we're going to go off the assumption it is true in the sort of cosmic sense.
Okay.
So it is true that red exists, or... all right, let's do something a little less esoteric. Let's talk about, I don't know... You just lit yourself on fire.
Yep, I did that. I thought if I had it up above me.
Yeah, I don't think it works that way.
But apparently not.
Apparently not. So, what's something that is true that I have intellectual knowledge of? Okay, Australia. I have intellectual knowledge of Australia. How did I come to that knowledge? Well, I have studied, I've read it in textbooks, I've seen pictures on the internet.
Oh, this is where I was saying, like, so based on that knowledge, if you went somewhere and that matched that description to you, you would say, oh, now I know I'm in Australia.
Yes, okay. And this is an interesting point. So, previously I had intellectual knowledge. Now, if I took a train or something, I think one of the barrels exploded.
Yep, yeah, I think that's also exactly what happened. It did go.
So,
I have a fire arrow now.
I had the intellectual knowledge. Now I've traveled to Australia, let's say on vacation, and what do you do in Australia? Go to the beach, I suppose? Sure.
I don't know. Worship a kangaroo?
Sure. I've eaten kangaroo meat, I've slept on a beach, or I've laid on a beach, I've gone through the outback, whatever. I have experiential knowledge. Now, the interesting thing is, because I'm a human, and I have human intelligence, I'm able to connect those two. I'm able to say, oh, I had the intellectual knowledge that Australia exists, and I had this experiential knowledge that I'm in this place right now. Based on this evidence, I can combine them and say, oh, this is intellectual knowledge matches up with this experiential knowledge. So I'm talking about the same thing in both those forms.
Okay. I think so, and I think the fun part about the whole thought experiment is taken away when we go to, well, okay, let's say you weren't in Australia, but everything from your knowledge, to your textbook knowledge, tells you that you are, like Columbus being in India. From all of his description that he had, and like everything, all of his textbook knowledge about where India should be and how you would get there, told him, I am in India.
Right.
But it's just factually he wasn't, so he doesn't know it, but it seems like, okay,
yeah,
then you will never know that you're in Australia because you can't know prior to being in Australia that you were there. Like, you can't, like, peel back reality and be like, oh, yep, I actually am here.
So you've hit the nail on the head. This is the weak point of my argument. We have to somehow assume that we know what is true to even make this point. And that's an interesting question. What is true?
What is true? True is what is.
Thank you.
I know, right?
Man, this is philosophy. I was doing this when I was 2 years old.
Yeah, it is what it is. That it really do be how it is.
Yeah.
So
have we made any progress? I think so.
I mean, I've got a fire arrow now.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Or at least, well, do I have the fire arrow? I don't know if I have
so I think we've at least addressed that. I've come up with a answer to Mary's room. I don't know if it's a comprehensive answer, but it's something. It exists. My answer of prior she had intellectual knowledge, now she has experiential knowledge, and furthermore, because she's a human with good intelligence, she can connect those two into synthetic knowledge. Ooh, now there's a $50 word. There's a $50 word I can throw around at cocktail parties.
That is actually...
Oh,
that's an actual term that is used in philosophy.
Is that, but am I applying it right, or am I just...
synthetic knowledge, how are you applying it?
I'm implying it a intersection of intellectual and experiential.
I don't think so. I think it's something that Kant uses at some point, and it's not...
Oh, right, the thesis and antithesis.
Yeah.
Makes a synthesis, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
No, Kant, get out of here, Kant.
Yeah.
I don't want you right now.
Oh, what, you don't want to be one of the Kantian boys, with half-shaven beard? You know?
Look, Kant, I got great respect for the guy. Kant, for all due respect, we don't want you in the house right now. We're busy with Descartes, okay? One philosopher at a time.
So if we're gonna keep talking about Descartes, the idea would be, I think we're right. We don't know when we know things as much as we'd like to. We can get really close, but at some point there's some kind of disconnect, and we don't know that we know things.
Yes.
We just take them for granted based off usually our senses.
Yeah, use our senses, and I would say it's rational to take them for granted. This is what in math we call axioms. Something that can't be proved by the system, but is necessary by the system in order to do anything. Axioms such as, what I experience is more or less matches up with the real world.
Right. My senses are accurate.
Yeah, my senses are... I don't have to say 100% accurate, but my senses are mostly accurate.
Yes.
Things like, there is something in the universe beside myself. I agree, Descartes did a good job proving that I exist. I don't think he proved that anything else exists, but I think that's a rational assumption to make if we want to make any progress.
Yes, I think so. So far we've done with physical things like, for instance, colors and light waves and things like that. Let's talk about another kind of existence of knowledge.
Because we can't end on success. No, we gotta end with scratching our heads.
So there's another thought experiment called the Chinese room, in which there's a woman in a room, and people walk up to the room and write on slips of papers Chinese words, questions, or like phrases, and then put it into a slot. The woman then takes the paper, looks in a rule book that she has that says basically, when you get this set of characters, write this set of characters down and put it in the outgoing slot. And unbeknownst to the woman reading, who knows absolutely no other language but English, she's writing and correctly responding to people in Chinese. Does she know Chinese?
Good question. My answer would be no.
No?
No.
Why?
This is getting off topic, but I've actually thought about this before. So, let me counter your thought experiment with a thought experiment of my own. Let's say, I'm going to give you two made-up words right now. Gak and zibble. Okay?
Okay.
Gak, all I'm going to tell you is Gak is a noun and zibble is a verb.
Okay.
Okay? Can you construct a sentence with the words Gak and zibble?
Okay. Hold on. Which one's which again?
Gak is a noun and zibble is a verb. So I can say, yesterday I zibbled my Gak.
Yeah. So
okay.
I guess I could make a sentence.
And I could make another sentence that says, the Gak zibbles my dog every week.
Right.
Okay. You can this is how language works. You can construct a whole host of sentences about using these words, right?
Right.
Now, those words don't mean anything, but sentences mean something, right?
Right.
So
the Gak zibbles.
Yeah, exactly. So that, I believe, that is an important part of language. Language is, at least in my understanding.
Okay. Did I just yeet him? I think I just yielded him. Oh my! I don't think he's coming back.
He ain't coming back, buddy. Yeah, language at least is two things. There's vocabulary and grammar or syntax. So, vocabulary is the meaning of each word. For example, when the word dog means a fluffy animal with 4 legs, a tail, that
has to be fluffy. It's not fluffy.
Okay. The word video game. I actually don't know. You know what? The word tree.
Not so easy, is it?
The word plant means a living organism that grows in a certain way and has certain characteristics. It's not what I'm talking about.
Certain things are certain things. Good job, Noah. We're really making progress here.
We're thinking here.
Okay, yes. Okay, so words
So
that,
that's
words are
vocabulary, but also grammar and syntax. The ability to take any given set of words and subject to certain understandings of the language, we can construct those vocabulary and use to do any number of sentences, right?
Right.
So your woman in the Chinese room, she has. I'm going to be generous and say she knows some vocabulary. It's not exactly normal.
Well, okay, I happen to know. You and I both know, like,
Yeah,
some
we
Chinese.
both know.
Just because I can write the characters for Ni Hao does not mean I know what the characters mean. So I would argue she doesn't even have vocabulary.
Well, maybe. Okay, let's set aside vocabulary for now. She definitely does not have grammar and syntax. Like, you couldn't tell her, okay, take these characters, but write a different message with, even if you know what these words means, write a different message. She can't write anything outside of a rule, right?
Right.
So, whereas I suppose there's a finite number, because by mathematics there's a finite number of sentences in English, but I can construct an arbitrarily large number of sentences in English. Even given a finite number of vocabulary words, I could construct a arbitrarily large number of sentences, right?
Right.
So that because I have knowledge of English's grammar and syntax and all that stuff. So, because I have both vocabulary knowledge of English and syntactical,
Sure,
the other thing.
The other thing, okay, very,
Because
very
I have both of those things, I know English. The woman in the Chinese room, if she having grammar is questionable, or having vocabulary is questionable, and having grammar and syntax, definitely not. So no, she does not know Chinese.
Okay. I mean, I agree with you. I think that she does not know Chinese. But there are some people who argue, okay, fine, she doesn't know Chinese. But the room does. The room itself is a mind.
What?
And the mind itself has the knowledge of Chinese. Because it's
the room is a mind. Can you unpack this, please?
The room is a mind. So the mind, in the sense of like your mind, like your brain, speaking from a purely physical sense, is simply a machine that receives inputs and then processes it and puts out the proper output. In that sense, the room is a mind or a brain.
No.
No. Oh, okay.
I'm gonna stop you there. Oh boy, we're at like over 40 minutes of recording. I don't know if you have enough time to get into this, but in my understanding of philosophy and the world, I think there is something fundamentally unique about the human mind.
Okay.
That is different from a computer, different from your machine here, different from, say, a dog. There's something unique about the human mind. And for now, I'm going to go off the assumption. I'm going to say you have to have a human mind to understand languages. Understand language. Setting aside aliens, let's say we'll assume an alien has a human mind in the sense that it can write a book. It can.
Okay, hold on. Now you're just throwing human in there, and it makes no sense.
All right, fine.
You can have AI write a book.
Can you?
Yes, AI can write a book. They have AI to make books.
Ooh, actually, okay. Fun trick. Take the lizard and then mix it with like a monster part. I think that will create something cool. Yeah, like try that. I think.
We're gonna flying lizard. Am I gonna flying lizard? Can I have a flying lizard? Hasty elixir. Haste effect.
Speed up.
Ooh. Speed. So you made me make speed. Great. Now.
Boy, Link's a terrorist. He does drugs. Wow, but this game is rated E for everyone. Yeah. So, let's say I can never remember the difference between sentient and sapient, but a sapient mind is required to do these things. And you're saying an AI can write a novel? No, it can't. It can't really. You can have it randomly generate letters in a certain order, but it has to do that. It has to. Okay, here we go. For an AI to write a novel, you need to feed it in a whole bunch of other novel manuscripts, right?
I think you can do it that way. Yes, that's
how.
Right.
I don't think. In case it wasn't clear, neither of us know really anything at all about computers, especially not AI. But
hey, we said amateurs, didn't we?
We said amateurs. We have a disclaimer. Don't take our words for anything except for when we say you should.
Yes. So okay, so like I think that like no, because I think if you fed in, like I think you're right. I think you have to feed a lot. Wow, I made a lot of good stuff. I think you're right. I think you have to feed it a lot. But I mean, that's no different than like saying you grew up reading all these fancy things,
Yes.
and so like now you know what a novel looks like.
Yes,
and how
yes, yes. But I'm gonna go on the limb and say you could take someone who's never who understands the English language but has never read a novel before, I'm going to say this, and this person could write a novel. It might not be very good, but it would be for all intents and purposes a novel.
So having no knowledge of like other people's work, you'd be able to write a novel.
Yes.
Don't.
Because humans are natural storytellers. Don't argue with me on this. We don't have time for that. Humans are natural storytellers. We're assuming this woman has a strong comprehension of the English language.
Right.
This person knows writing rules and grammar. Yeah, why not?
Why not?
I mean, it might be structured oddly, but then again, there's no such thing as a definitive structure for a novel. It just has to, basically, a novel. I don't even know what a novel is. A novel is a fictional story that's of, I'm gonna say, of a certain length. So if it's too short, then you would call it a novella or a short story. So yeah, we'll just tell this woman, hey, make sure when you write this down, it's at least this many words. Bada bing, bada boom. This woman who's never read a novel before has just written a novel.
Okay, fine.
An AI could not do that. So this is my argument why an AI, a computer brain is not the same as a human brain in this way.
So you're saying only humans know things?
Yes.
And I guess I can feel like I know where this one could go. I'm gonna say, and your basis would be that humans or that AI doesn't have beliefs. Like computers don't have beliefs.
Right.
So then it doesn't fail to be like, oh, it has to.
If you want the cold resist one, it's that one.
There you go. It has to be a truly held belief.
Right.
So AI can't know anything because an AI can't have belief.
Yeah. An AI, a computer, like you said, a computer is just a machine with inputs and outputs. It's just a whole lot of inputs and outputs and very complex. And because we're humans, we fool ourselves into thinking it's more than that. But really, it's just input and output. Which, this might be a bit controversial take. I think a human mind is more than that. I think I see what you're trying to do, but you might want to like set it down, get up to the side. I mean, I don't know if there's mechanisms to it,
But anyway, so I think that I get what you're saying, and I think that that's why I said in a purely physical sense, because in a purely physical sense, so we're removing the.
But that's what I'm saying. A purely physical sense can't know anything. What? You fell into freezing water.
I had the pepper though.
I guess that's not good enough. Sorry.
The pepper is not strong with this one.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. There's no such thing as knowing in a purely physical sense. It's not possible.
Okay, so from your perspective, like I said, knowing that you're a Christian and everything, you have that not bias, but that lens that you see the world through. If there is no God and like things are just like physical, then we don't know anything.
Yeah, probably.
Interesting. I'd like to think that even if there isn't a God, I still get to know stuff. I get to know something.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, like, I exist.
Do you know that, or are you just a machine, a whole bunch of neurons doing inputs and outputs, just a complicated computer?
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. That's the actual question. Is like, does that mean that isn't that like if that is what it is, like if that's what I am, and like knowledge is just a truly held belief, it would seem that I have a belief based off my feelings and my experiences, and that leads me to know things. So then, no, like I think it's like I think you're like denying the consequence, or not that. You're denying where the argument's going because you don't want to say that AI knows stuff. And so you're saying, okay, no, this can't be true because I'm saying that AI knows things.
I mean, sure. I'm saying based on my understanding of what it means to know something, that's the case, yeah.
Right, but the idea is like you're supposed to figure out what knowing is through inquiry, not have an assumption of what it is. change the theories to fit the fact, or change the facts to fit.
Well, this gets. I think this gets back to the whole. Then, how do we know? So you're saying, no? You're trying to figure out what knowledge is based purely on inquiry, right?
Right.
But do you have knowledge of how to do an inquiry?
Not how to do inquiry. I think I can do it. So what would that look like?
Because if so, then you're assuming you have knowledge, which we just said you can't do. So,
No. You can assume you have it. You just can't assume that you know what it is.
That doesn't. But run me by that one more time. You can say, I have this thing called knowledge. I don't know what it is. I can't define it, but it's definitely there. I mean,
I know what a Nintendo Switch is, but can I define all the parts to it and explain how it works? Nope, but I know I have one.
I mean, I could define not all the parts, but I could define a number of the parts. It's electronics. It's made of plastics. It has circuitry, etc., etc. It runs on electricity. With an internal battery that's rechargeable. I could go on down the list. I couldn't define every molecule within it, but
okay.
We're back at the ship of Theseus, aren't we?
I think we kind of are. I think what you could do, or a better example would be, let's say, fine, it's like the 1800s or whatever, and you've got a typhoid, or no, you've got a fever. You don't know what it is, but you can know you're sick. Like, you know you have a sickness, even if you cannot define what that sickness is. It seems like, no, I can know I'm sick with something, and then it matches what the other person has. I don't think that requires me to know what it's called or what's happening to my body.
No, that is a form of knowledge. You can say, I have these symptoms, which we're calling typhoid. I don't know exactly what causes it, but I can...
Well, no, it's like the thing is, like, they usually, if they had a sickness, they didn't know what it was, they just called it a fever. But, like, they can know that, like, you have the same fever as this person.
Oh, sure. That's knowledge, isn't it? I
think it is, but I think from what you're saying, it seems like, no, you can't know that, like, because I was saying that, like, you can know what you have even if you don't know what it is. That you can know, okay, I have a fever, but you don't know what that fever, you don't know what that means, you just know that you have one. Because the fever is just a vague term for any number of symptoms. How did I get him down before?
I don't know. I mean, you don't have to kill him if you don't want. You can just...
Yeah, I'm just going back to trying to not die. Oh wait, I think I have to.
I mean, you don't. I don't know if you have to, but it might be a good idea.
I don't think I have to.
Where were we? Okay. We've gone down so... We've retraced our steps so many times, our steps have ceased to exist.
I think so.
I think so. I mean, we're already over 50 minutes.
I think we should just... I think we have to call it.
Yeah, okay. Can we at least sum up what we've got? So we answered... I think we answered Mary's room. Want to save right? Real quick.
Yeah. So
I think we answered Mary's room somewhat, at least. We came up with a answer for Mary's room. I don't know if it's a comprehensive answer, but it's an answer.
You think that she gained experiential knowledge, but as far as like academic or what did you call it?
I called it intellectual, but
intellectual knowledge.
Academic works fine.
And academically, no, she did not learn anything. Okay.
Right. Okay. I don't know how accurate that is, but I think I'm happy to stick with that explanation for now.
Okay.
For the Descartes part, we just decided that I exist and the universe exists, and let's move on with our lives. Okay?
Yeah, because unpacking the meditations would take too long. So
as
an axiom, we took that we exist.
That would take too long and be far too much effort. I mean, we're a low effort video here.
Yeah.
So we took it as axiom that I exist and the universe exists, and just move on with our lives.
Yeah.
And then we got to the Chinese room.
Right, and on the Chinese room, we decided that because it's not a human mind, it can't know anything at all.
Right.
And the person doesn't know anything because they can't construct sentences on their own.
Yeah, that person doesn't have everything required to know a language. And then we disagreed on what a human mind was. And is an AI a mind? Am I a mind? What is a mind? And I think that's a topic for another day. Maybe.
Yeah.
We really need to start keeping track of when every time we say that's a topic for another time, because...
There's always another time, Noah. There'll always be another time.
Will there be?
Who knows? But here's what I know. This video has come to an end.
This video has come to an end. If it even existed in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. You know, it might not. Right. Who knows?
Okay.
The recording might have gone wrong. We don't know.
We don't know anything. I might just be dreaming that this video exists. And I might be the Chinese woman in the Mary's room. Okay, I think we're done for now.
No, we're the sheep in the field.
Ooh, that's profound. I don't know what it means, but it sounds profound. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Amateur Philosophers Play Games. Please leave a like. It really helps a lot. Drop a comment if you want to talk about anything we've said. I don't know why you would. If you made it this far, good on you. Round of applause for all of our audience.
With our hands that we totally know we have.
Yeah, with our hands.
If you think you know that you have hands, drop a comment. Also, I can prove you wrong.
Yeah.
If you don't know you have hands.
Mm-hmm. And if you drop a subscribe, we will know that you are a sheep in this field of life. That is, we know that we don't know exists. Yeah.
We know enough to know that we know nothing.
Thank you, Justin. I think we can all agree on that. And with that out of the way, I think that's it for today. So we have been Amateur Philosophers Play Games. We'll see you next week.